The Halo Infinite update is obviously not good. In fact, the live service has been trashed since the game launched back in 2021. I will say as a positive though, that I do appreciate that 343 is adding new weapons to the sandbox, and even though I do have massive gripes with the new fuel rod spanker, it is good that 343 is finally expanding the weapon selection because the sandbox needs a massive update. Back to negatives. I really hate the live service of Halo Infinite. When they stopped doing seasons and solely relied on operations for content, I believe that was a huge mistake. So I was interested in seeing what the new changes would bring to the live service, and to be honest, it sucks like usual. Lastly, before I go in on this update, point by point, everything in the new Battle Pass looks like trash except for the Hellcat. And it's sad to see that Season 5 will be the only time that I think that the live service in Halo Infinite was actually decent. With the intro done, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's talk about the new fuel rod because I have a lot to say. I have nothing against 343 or any other game studio reusing assets. In fact, I wish 343 would have reused assets from Halo MCC and Halo 5 because I believe most of the new stuff that 343 made for Infinite is inferior to what we got in those older Halo games, like the match composer, the exchange, menus, weapons, and vehicle selection. Worst of all, we had to wait years for 343 to make worse versions of stuff they already made in older titles. And the new fuel rod will be another item on the list of inferior stuff that 343 made for us, instead of reusing assets like the Halo 5 fuel rod. The new fuel rod, though, does not even look like a fuel rod, and it actually looks like a model of the spanker that you can get in the store. Now, with that being said, the weapon isn't bad to use in game, but I wish the shots would bounce like the OG fuel rod, and I also wish the sound was a bit more heavy. But overall, I do not hate that the sandbox got updated, and I hope that the next weapon we get in the future is a proper shotgun, because the Bulldog and Heatwave are medium-range weapons and not true close-quarter combat weaponry. The next thing that I wish to discuss is the live service elements, because like I said earlier, 343 has done a garbage job on making Halo Infinite a good live service game. The Battle Pass changes are not really that big of a deal in my opinion, because you will be able to buy the premium stuff in the store at a later date if you do not buy the premium Battle Pass at all during the operation. So it is still better than Fortnite, Call of Duty, or any other live service game where the Battle Pass is gone at a certain date even if you bought it, and with those games, there's no way to get the cosmetics after the season is over. So at least Halo Infinite actually does pretty good on that end. Now, if you want to agree or not that it going into the shop is a good idea, I would prefer if it stayed on the Battle Pass, but I think the stuff that Halo Infinite is offering with its new Operation Battle Pass is garbage anyways, so I don't really have any of that FOMO for it because I don't want it. Where I really hate Halo Infinite's live service model is these monthly operations that they've done for around a year now, instead of the standard 3-month seasons. The 1-month operations have made Halo Infinite feel like a blur, because it feels like one very long season, and that is because the content we get every operation is minimal. I think having larger updates every 3 months is better than small updates every month because there's no excitement for what's next anymore, since what we get now is always so little anyways. The only time I felt Halo Infinite was on the right track was Season 5. And of course, as soon as they finally did something right, they had to change it for the worse like they always do. The next talking point I wish to discuss is Ranked Assault and the lack of care for alpha zombies. I played one game of Ranked Assault to see how 8v8 ranked felt, and it was god-awful. It was the day of the update and around 3 p.m., and I got put into a game with 135 ping, which is always a great start to a ranked game. Then I got to experience one of the worst butt kickings I've ever experienced in Halo. We lost 0-3, and all of my team got slaughtered by our opponents. After the game was over, I wanted to see who we fought, and I kid you not, everyone I went against were all Diamond 5. My team, for comparison, were all placing our matches, or Diamond 3 at the highest. I really hate the way 343 does its ranked playlists, because at least for me, it feels like they expect me to be Onyx level, despite the fact I mostly play Infection and Firefight these days. And I did hit Onyx back during Season 2 reset, but that was in 2022. The year is currently 2025, and I haven't played much ranked since then. I wish with ranked that 343 would just start everyone at Bronze 1 and let everyone claw their way to the top, because the ranked curve for the game now is trash, and ranked for me is super uninviting, because I always get put in a skill bracket I no longer belong in. And I'm not sticking around to get beat down where I belong, because that feels awful. And with ranked, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just saying the way it is now is trash, and I'm using my own personal experience. So if any of you play ranked and got any better ideas, let me know in the comments. Now, with Alpha Zombies, I enjoy the playlist, but it's super imbalanced. The survivors are too OP, and they survive way too much. Survivors have a medium-range pistol, medium-range shotgun, and thrusters. The infected, for comparison, only have the sword and slightly better movement. The only changes I wish would happen is that the infected would be given thrusters or a grappling hook, and the survivors have their thrusters removed and be given a real shotgun instead of the bulldog, because giving the survivors 2 medium-range weapons is way too much. If they did that, the game mode would play more like Halo Reach Infection, which was the best infection in my opinion, and the zombies wouldn't be so helpless against survivors. Also, 343, please fix stage fright. The whole survivors like to camp in is atrocious, and most of the players are not good enough to go into it without thrusters. Also, fix Aquarius. I like that map for infection, but if all the survivors camp where the infected initially spawn, there is nothing the infected can do about it. And trust me, I know as the victim of that tactic. Also, do not add players into a game with 2 or 1 round left, and especially do not force them to be infected twice in a row if they show up late, because that's unfair to the player. And I have had first place robbed from me because someone got to be a survivor all 4 rounds and I didn't, because people left the game, which messed up the rotation that the game has that decides who gets to be infected or not. With all that said, Halo Infinite has great core gameplay, and the devs who made the core gameplay for Halo Infinite did a really good job. But everything else around it is so bad that it does not matter. 343 is a terrible studio that does not know how to or care how to make a good Halo game, and maybe we will get a good Halo game once the studio dies. But then Microsoft will just fumble it again, so who really cares? And I hate to sound so negative, but it's just Halo Infinite, no update's gonna change the game to make it good. We're 3 years in, the game is the way it is, and you got 3 options. Either play Halo Infinite and enjoy the slop that 343 likes to release every single month, you play MCC and enjoy the old Bungie games, or you move on. So with that said, let me know what you think in the comments, and...
I'm sorry, sir. It's time for you to leave.